Hello YouTube, welcome back. I figured here I would do a quick video on some of the necessities and not so necessities but making life easy type of tools and things to get if you're getting into this hobby. Now bear in mind I am of my group of friends and people I usually hobby with, I'm usually the mechanic of everybody. So when I was in model railroading, normally I would do most of the maintenance stuff with a lot of the guys that I ran around with if we were together, you know. Obviously, all of the people that I model with are very good at doing their stuff and all of that, but I tend to get a lot of enjoyment out of maintenance and repair and upgrades. So, and I think they saw that. So with that, I did a lot of that. And then with my group of friends that we like to go mess around with RCs, I tend to like to work on stuff a lot, so a lot of times I'll help them with their stuff. Some of it I know a lot about, some of it I don't, but that's the fun of the hobby. So usually a recommendation I would put out there is when you first get into the hobby, if you're not already, a kit like this. Now this one says Racer's Edge. There's literally, there's a Dynamite, there's just tons of people. They basically just relogo it. Same style of kit. Has I think 5 of these guys here, these hex drivers, 3 screwdrivers, and 3 Allen key ends on them. Like these guys all back here, right? And so they're a good starting point. I got mine when I got my first RC car recently. I had one when I was little, but my first hobby grade RC car or 10 scale TRX4. So I got one of these kits so I could actually work with it. Yeah, they work. They're good. Their quality is so-so, but they work, right? But what you'll run into a lot of times is like you see on these how the tips are silver. I wouldn't call them rounded, but they're definitely not as squared off as when they were new, and you know they tend to strip out over a little bit of usage, especially if you use torque on things like I do. Sometimes I forget how tight I'm tightening things, and I'll just tighten it a little too far. Hence why I really like the blue stuff, because you don't have to tighten it. You stick it on the threads and you tighten it down to just tight enough to where it's nice and snug, and this will hold it together. It does a very good job of it, much better than torque. Anyways, another thing that tends to come in these kits are these little wrenches. Now, some of them have, 4 sizes, some of them have 2. This kit has a 5mm, which is great for this hobby, RC construction, because at least with the JD models, I'm not familiar with the other ones yet. I don't have any. Just the JD model stuff so far. Is 5mm is the size of the hydraulic lines. So when they tie into stuff, a lot of them are 5mm at these to unscrew them. So that was convenient. Whereas of another kit, the original one that I bought for my 10 scale, that doesn't have a 5mm slot. They have, I think, a 4, 2.5, an 8, and some other stuff. Whereas this one has a 5 and an 8. It just depends on the brand of the kit. You know, they don't change much, but a little bit. Of course, they'll normally come with a little screwdriver end and stuff to put on there. But nice, cheap, easy, quick, and useful when just getting into the hobbies. But as you progress into it, you'll want to get better tools and stuff like that. Another thing that I found that works really well, especially with the hydraulic stuff, are an ignition wrench set. Now I have a standard and metric. Lowe's used to carry them on hand, Cobalt brand, but they stopped doing that, and now they don't even carry them on hand. I think you have to order them online as a Craftsman set now. They're branded as Craftsman instead of Cobalt. But they usually come in a little bag like this, and they're not super expensive, and you get all kinds of sizes, which is good. For the hydraulic lines, having the wrenches is helpful. Especially like with the loader that I have behind me, you probably can't see very well. Like this guy. There's like the what do you call them? The steering hydraulics. Getting to them is a little bit of a pain in the rear sometimes, and so these will help a little bit. Like you can get to the fittings, but reach is a little bit of a pain, especially with something as thick and wide as this. Let's see if I can get a good, yeah, compared to one of these, which is the exact same size, just thinner. So, anyways, on to the next one. So I like those a lot. Another thing that I'd recommend if you're getting into this hobby is a tap set. Now, when I really started getting into this with the new bolts and everything, is I got a little tap set in, what do you call it, in metric, because pretty much all the models take metric stuff for JD models, and I believe the Traxxas stuff is the same way. And sometimes you want to add stuff, like with the dozer I was adding some handrails. So in order to do that, you have to drill and tap some holes. Well, let me see, I can show. There you go. So there's the handrails added with the little bolts and everything. But I had to drill and tap those in order to install them. So I went and got a drill and tap set. Now, mind you, a good portion of the stuff I got in a place called Locked Up RC because they're big into the hardware stuff. But I know that you can get it in plenty of other places. They're just a good one. Because they have a lot of it in the same spot, and the prices are reasonable. Although I think a lot of hobby shops will carry it too. I know the hobby shop up here, Ryan at Anchorage House of Hobbies, same difference. I can get them there too. So most hobby shops probably will carry them. Although I do have to say that Anchorage House of Hobbies is huge in the RC stuff, and they're very, very good. Amazing hobby shop. And Ryan and team are great people. But anyways, so I would definitely recommend something like that, especially if you're going to do any kind of customization. And the other reason is I'm actually going to show you when I'm setting up the grill to install it onto the parts that I'm about to show you here in a minute. So that's why I have one all set up and out. A lot of times when you get these parts like this, it's a beautiful grill. Well, he drilled and tapped everything, he got it and made it amazing, and then powder coated it. Well, when you powder coat, a lot of times you'll fill in some of the screw holes. So having a drill and tap will just make your life easier. Because when you actually run the bolts through it, you can damage threads, especially when they're small like this, if you don't. Are you going to? Probably not. But it makes it more of a pain. Whereas if you just tap it out real quick, the threads are beautiful and everything just rolls right in nice and easy. Nothing like making things easy, because the last thing you want to do is damage the model. But another recommendation from me is actually for not only just RCing, but in general, is a tap and die set. Okay, now this one is made by Gear Wrench, and it is freaking awesome. It's only a 75 piece, right? The part number is 3887. I got it at Napa a few years back. And it was really reasonable when I bought it. But what's crazy is this kit actually has a lot of interesting and weird sizes that you wouldn't expect in just a home tap and die set. And they're very good quality. I've used them in so many things, from creating a shifter for my computer so I could play American Truck Sim with a real actual shifter. There are some videos on the other YouTube I was doing on how to do that. I actually have to update a bunch of stuff on there. If you have watched those and are waiting for me to update, give me time. I will get to that, and I'll answer a lot of questions and do some more stuff on it. But for now, the company that made the extension for that shifter didn't even have the tap and die for that, but yet this kit had it. Absolutely phenomenal. Again, it's a Gear Wrench 75 piece 3887. It's a part number. I'd recommend anyone who can get one, just go get one. Even if it's not just for the hobby, but just for your garage, anywhere around the house. My machines at my company, a lot of their bolts, I have tap and die for those, so when they get nasty, we can clean them up real quick and really easy. The wire wheels are great, but they're not great for everything. Now back to the hobby stuff. Beyond that kit, M3 is the lowest it goes. Well, as we said before, a lot of these bolts and nuts are all M2. Well, what's nice is they are hard to find, but when you can actually find the little kits that will do below an M3. Well, on Amazon, they carry them. I think it's called Gavin. Yeah, that makes them. Honestly, they're out of China, but so far the quality has been pretty decent. I would recommend, if you get one, the screw. There's a nut in between the screw head and this pot metal made piece to hold all of the dies and taps. Well, these threads in this pot metal are not great, so I got an M3 nut to put on the screw, and the reason why I did that is to use it as a lock nut. Now, if you do that, I don't think you can reach all the way in to hold the taps, although I have a lot of those tap sizes that I'll need anyways in that other kit that I have. It's the dies that I was really after for making the handrails that I'm going to show you here shortly on the hood. So the main reason I bought this was for the dies only. But I ended up getting a metric and standard set, one each, and they weren't the cheapest thing ever, but they were definitely worth the money. And they're fairly easy to get, so you can get them off of Amazon. It's the only place I was able to find them. Every other set I found, like in any of the parts stores or even through like Grainger, I don't think they had anything below an M3. And if they did, the kit was like $300 or more, and I just wasn't wanting to pay that much for a massive kit when I already have a large portion of it anyways. So I think they were somewhere around $50 each, which isn't unreasonable, being that they are high-speed steel. They are a decent quality. I've already used the metric one on the M2, and yeah, it actually, when I put the M2 around a 2mm rod with the wrong threading on it, it tore that threading up and re-threaded it the proper threading. So it didn't get damaged. It's not cheap quality steel. So well worth the money if you can get them, or if you want to get them. But I would recommend something like this because most of the stuff you're going to deal with on these is either M2. There's going to be some M3. There's other bigger stuff that you can get anywhere. But anything below 2.5 or below, if you deal with it any amount, I would look at one of these just in case you're doing any kind of modifications, or you do things like buy a brand new grill that is beautifully done, just got powder coated, so you have to tap out the threads real quick, anything like that. There's all kinds of reasons to do it. Same thing with the dies, especially the dies actually, because the dies, sometimes you'll have the bolts where the threads get kind of wonky a little bit. You use the die so you can clean up that thread. Another thing I'd recommend too that I use a lot is this guy right here, a hobby. I think they call it a hobby square, machine square. And the reason why I like this so much is because when I'm checking bolts, I can check their size, and it allows me to figure out what size bolts I want to replace the factory ones, because most of them are all Allens, and I hate Allen keys. So I like to replace them with things like these locked up RC bolts, or the ones made by RC Construction Projects. He makes the different style headed versions that are stainless steel. You can get these in stainless steel too, but I really like the black. So it's really useful and helpful to have this for reasons like that. Also, when you're trying to do like cuts, like when I'm taking a Tamiya tractor and I'm turning it into a day cab, this thing does wonders in cutting the back door and reducing it in size to make it look factory. So I would definitely recommend getting one of these, and you can find them most places. I think I paid $20 for it. Nothing major. But definitely, hands down, recommend that. Another thing that I would recommend, that's one of your first purchases I would make tool-wise, along with one of these other kits like this. Another thing you can do if you didn't want to buy one of those kits is you can go, I think Lowe's and Home Depot have electronics repair kits, and they have a lot of the same sizes and extra ones. Would be another thing to look at if you didn't want to get one of the hobby versions. But the hobby ones, I believe, are stronger made, better made. Another option, especially if you're like me and you like those hex bolts that I have, is to get some of these hex drivers. Okay, now you'll notice everything I do, a lot of it is Locked Up RC. Okay, they do not advertise me, they do not pay me to advertise, they do not do anything that has anything to do with me other than sell me stuff. So I have paid for every one of these out of my pocket. Every dime that they cost, I paid for. None of it was at a discount to try and advertise or anything. I mean, obviously I've got a few followers and a few views, so I'm not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. That's what I was trying to say. So I just really like their products, from their hardware to what they do. And you'll hear me talk about a lot of people. You'll hear me say Ryan from Anchorage House of Hobbies. You'll hear me say Bob from Hobby Concepts. You'll hear me say Thomas from RC Construction Projects. You'll hear me say Locked Up RC. You'll hear me talk about RC four-wheel drive. You'll hear me talk about all kinds of stuff. And I bring up these people's names because I want people to know who they are, because I want to see this hobby get driven, and I want to see more people in it and more people enjoying it. And these are rock stars in our hobby. They really are. They do all kinds of really nifty, cool stuff that make it even more fun to do. And I just can't say enough good stuff about people that are in these hobbies, enjoying it and improving and working the hobbies more than they need to, just to try and make it better for everyone. I mean, that's fantastic. That's what you want to see, in my opinion. Okay. So I have no qualms about putting their names out there for everyone to go check out their websites and see their work and just be awed and amazed by the quality of what you get from any one of those guys. So I'll say it again, every one of them is fantastic. I haven't had problems with them because they're hobbyists just like we are. They just know how to make cooler stuff than I do. They do a really good job, and I'm very happy with every one of those people. And like I'll say Ryan and Anchorage House of Hobbies because, I mean, I know who he is personally. He knows me. I go in there a lot. But, I wouldn't say that we hang out outside of his work, because we don't. But I want people to know who he is and what shop he has, and I want to see his business grow up here too. I think that's fantastic. I want to continue to watch his business get bigger and bigger and better and better. He and his dad, I think his dad started the place, and he, just like his dad, man, they're freaking awesome. They're great people, and I am super happy that I've known both of them. Like I said, as a customer, it was never, anything beyond a customer, but still, it's always good, to find people in your hobbies that enjoy them like you do. So, anyways, back to what I was trying to get at. Another hex drivers like this. Now, Locked Up RC has like full kits and all that, and I may look at that for my mobile kit. Like I said, I'm generally the mechanic in the group. I tend to work on everything, and I figure out anything and everything and how to do stuff because I'm driven to do certain things. So I have tools, I have way too many tools. But I can't say enough good things about these. Anything like this that's of high quality doesn't have to be Locked Up RC. I just tend to really like their stuff. But that's a good thing to have, especially as you're getting farther into the hobby, or if you really like these specialty bolts. These are a really good type of tool to have. If you don't do that, if you stay with the Allens and you stay with the normal factory stuff that you'll see, you can get toolkits that are the same way, but these are high quality. That's the main point I was trying to get at, is hex drivers, and especially high quality stuff, whether they're hex drivers or not. And then there are other things you can do, like in these, I do a lot of, like I said, I like trying to do custom stuff. I like making things fairly accurate and all of that. Well, one problem I've seen is, of course, like with anything with a bolt, if you go to tighten it too far, you can strip out the threads, or like was the case with my loader back here. Try and get that. This guy. The back rear left tire, no, back rear right tire has two lugs missing, lug bolts missing, because two of them snapped off when I went to take it off when I first got it. I think I talked about it in a previous video, but regardless, I've contacted RC 4-Wheel Drive, and of course they're doing everything that they always promise, and they're trying to fix the issue, which is phenomenal. They didn't, they should do that, but not everybody's great, but they are phenomenal, like most of the people in this hobby, and in most hobbies that I've been in. Most of them are really responsive and very good, but my point there was that one of the bolt holes, where the lug bolts go into, somehow when they put that lug bolt in there, that thing is stuck. It ain't coming out, and the only way I'm going to get it out is to drill it out, which means I'm going to destroy the threads most of the time. Not always. If you're really good, you can figure out how not to do that. I have never done that, even with a real car. When you drill it out, you usually destroy the hole. So what you end up doing is you drill it out, you get the thing out. If you do destroy the threads, which usually, depending on how bad it is, you will, then you bore it out a little bit more. Then you tap it with that larger hole with a special tap, and then you can rethread it. Well, here are two rethreading kits, one that's an M2, one that's M3, which are more common than anything. So if you destroy the thing, you can easily rethread it, right? So if I had gone with that railing that you saw, and I had drilled out one of the holes and I damaged that hole, I can now drill it out a little bit more and rethread it, which is pretty nifty. And they, Locked Up RC sells these. I don't know where else you can get them, maybe Amazon, but it's just an M2 or an M3 thread repair kit. And I mean, you'll see them, I think call them, yeah, they're called helicoils, usually when in reference to a car. I don't know about other stuff, but usually we just call them helicoil. And so you'll see that a lot with vehicles. It's an easy way to retap stuff. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of cover some of the stuff that you'll see that could be useful, and I'd recommend, especially if you're really going to get into the hobby like I do and just start tearing stuff apart, making it work better, making it sound awesome, making it operate really well, and just super enjoying the hobby, trying to make that a lot better. So anyways, I'm going to end the video there, and then I'm going to do a video right after on when you get these parts in, maybe doing a quick why it's important to have a tap, tap it out real quick, show people how that works and how quick it can be, just to make everything awesome. And then I'm also going to go over some of the parts that I did with the dozer that I changed, some of the ideas that I had and what I wanted to do for the look and everything. And they're pretty much all done, so I get to show that off too. Anyways, thank you as always. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, by all means, leave them in the comments below, and I'll answer them anytime I see them. And you guys have a fantastic day, and I hope to see more people enjoying this hobby. That's the whole reason I'm doing this. Anyways, you guys have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.